My reputation is, of course, in games and horror. I'm not famous as a doting grandfather, but nonetheless I am one. In fact, as of this video, I have 15 grandkids. So my family has prospered. Naturally, the little ones want to like and enjoy the same things that Grandpa does. But this poses a challenge. Most of my games are frankly not designed for preteens. While I love the Magdalene we created for Planet Apocalypse, I don't really need the grandkids to see this kind of image to haunt their dreams. And of course, even games that aren't horrific looking are complex enough they can't really full enjoy them until they're older. Here's an image of a game that's going to be released soon. You can see it's pretty complicated looking. If you play it with a little kid, then basically you have to explain to that kid what they can do for their turn every turn. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for the kid. There's a reason that there are kids' games and kids' movies. Kids' games don't have to be worse, they just have to be simpler to remember. But consider my position. My grandkids want to spend their time with me doing what Grandpa does. This means they want to play games. How do I do this with them? Now, you might not be a grandpa, but you might be a mom or a dad or an uncle or an aunt, so you're faced with this same challenge if you want to share your hobbies. The games are easy enough here in our Monster Invasion example. I can't play Planet Apocalypse or Cthulhu Wars with little kids, but there's other games. Even if they want to play one of my games, I have a bunch which they can handle with me to guide them. And since these grandkids are so keen on games, they can handle games that are a little bit more complicated than the age rating might indicate. For example, our game 8-Bit Attack is officially for ages 10 plus, but on Sunday, my 8-year-old grandson said, I want to play 8-Bit Attack. So we did. We did just fine. I even tried to cheat in his favor so he'd win, but he caught me making a mistake, he thought, and made me correct it. Yes, I will totally fudge results playing with the kids so they can win more often, at least when they're young. The older they get, I do this less and less, not only because they're likelier to catch me, but also because they're improving. And by the time they're teens or older, I don't cheat at all in favor of them, and that way they know that if they beat Grandpa, the game expert, that's pretty empowering. Now, if you're looking for other games to play with the smaller kids, I suggest some of these. Here's 12 they might enjoy. So 2-Minute Dino Deal. This is by Petersen Games. It's literally 2 minutes long. So whether they win or lose, it's going to be simple to explain. The first time they'll play, they're going to be completely spanked and not understand what's going on. Hey, but so are you, so it's not a problem. Then they pick up on it and they get to do a little better. Another game we have is Monster Factory. Now, Monster Factory is a go-to game. It's not by my company, and even the littlest kids can play it. They don't usually win, but they can all play it and love it. It's so fun to fit the tiles together and make your monster. Very simple, very straightforward. When families come over and they aren't really gamers and they want to play a game because it's Sandy Petersen's house, I'll often break out Monster Factory as a go-to game. If they're a little more advanced in games, I'll bring out King of Tokyo, which is great fun. You have a giant monster and then a bunch of other giant monsters, and they get to roll their claws and kill each other, and no one really cares if you win or lose in King of Tokyo, so it's pretty fun. It does have the player elimination mechanic, which no one likes, but on the other hand, you don't eliminate it for very long because the game's so short. Tooth Fairy. This is a game by Petersen Games, and this game goes down to like 3-year-olds can play Tooth Fairy. And it's got the brightly colored plastic teeth, and everyone likes playing with them, and it's just like guessing and grabbing, and you're not even taking turns as grabbing things, so they'll like that. Zularetto, they love having their zoo. They like building up the animals. Again, my 6 to 8-year-old kids, the ones that are more obsessed with games, can easily handle it. Younger ones, maybe not so much, but you can help them. Say, Amelia, you help Grandma play the game. And like, what should we get? Should we try to get chimpanzees or lions? And then she likes cats. She want to get lions, and it all works out. So Zularetto is a good fun one for them. I think there's also like an Aqualetto and a Coloretto, but I think the zoo animals seem to do it for the little kids. Pit is great when you have a bunch of kids and they want to play, and they're all at least 10 or so, or 8, maybe 8, and they just want to have a thing where you're all interacting. You don't have to wait for people to take their turn. It's really good for those who are critical people who can't pay a lot of attention in a row, because in Pit, you're always doing something. You're running around the room with a bunch of cards in your hand, yelling at people, and it's super fast and it's super quick and goes till someone says, I got it. I rounded up. I can't remember what the word is, but there's something you say when you've cornered the market, and very fast, very fun, and keeps everyone interacting. It's a really good game for a party because everyone has to interact with every other person. So it kind of breaks the ice. Bonanza. I first played Bonanza with my then 8-year-old niece, who is now in her 20s and has a kid and is married and that kind of stuff. And it rapidly became her favorite game of all time. It's especially good because even when it's not your turn, and this is a key thing for kids' games, that you want them to be doing things when it's not their turn. This is true of Zularetto. This is true of King of Tokyo. This is true of Tooth Fairy. It's true of Pit, and it's true of Bonanza. You're always interacting in Bonanza, which keeps the players going. Clue. Clue is one of those old crappy games that no one likes, but Clue is actually pretty good for little kids because the simple calculus you do of figuring out who did the game and the simple marking off things is actually kind of exciting for kids. Not quite as exciting for the grown-ups, so your fun will mostly be that you're playing the game with the kids, right? But hey, that's why you had the kids, right? So Clue, I think, is a good game for kids. It was actually, Clue was sort of my gateway game. That was the game I liked so much. I would stay in from recess sometimes when I was 8 and 9 years old to play Clue with friends. Not all the friends want to do that. They want to go do kickball or play in the monkey bars. But if I could play Clue, I would do that. So I really liked it. We have a game coming out from my company called Marry the Monster, which is pretty stellar. For little kids. We have a video elsewhere on our Petersen Games channel showing some of the little kids playing it and really enjoying it. It's very simple, it's straightforward. There's a little bit of strategy, and you get to have the monster stomp other players. This is a good game to teach people kids how to be a good sport. When you get stomped, you just laugh and you got stomped, and then later on when they get stomped, they will hopefully emulate you and they will laugh and not mind it because it happens all the time in the game. So it gives them a chance to learn how to not flip the board when things are going wrong in Monopoly. Hanabi. Hanabi is a game where you might want to have slightly older audience, say 11 or older, but it's really, really good game for inductive reasoning and knowing how to give clues. You have to pick the right kids for this, but it's colorful. It's fun to do. The main problem is that some players will forget the official rules. Like, for example, my sister in her 50s will constantly forget the rules and inadvertently cheat playing Hanabi, so watch for that. The fun part is when my 51-year-old sister forgets the rules and cheats, and then the 11-year-old granddaughter says, Aunt Julia, what are you doing? So I'm calling out Julia in person on this, so don't cheat on Hanabi, Julia. Finally, there's checkers. I know this is an old game. It's actually a good game. It's fun for kids. It's balanced, it works out to the present day. Try it. I will say that the French version of checkers, which I think is called Jeu de Dames, is actually better than the English version. The French version is a 10 wide board, I think. Well, basically the pieces move differently. You can go look it up. It's a better version of checkers, in my opinion. Anyway, there's 12 games to start you off. Of course, there's lots more the kids might like. I've had fun playing Sheriff of Nottingham, a bluffing game. Milliborn is a fun card game. Dragonstones is really good. They like beating the rocks, Now, by the time if you start these kids young enough playing these games, by the time they're teenagers, you can pretty much play any game with them, assuming, they still want to play with the old folks. Now here I have an advantage. See, you might be a parent, and it's really not always fun to have to spend an evening with your parents, right? But it's always cool to hang out with grandpa and grandma. Now, of course, the kids aren't little clones of you or me. They have their own likes and dislikes, but you know how to handle your own descendants. Lord knows I'm not a family counselor. Let's talk about what to avoid with kids' games. Even more important than what they might like is what they will not like. And here's the general's room. First, endless tedium. Kids have shorter attention spans, and games that go on endlessly suck in this regard. Some of the classics of gaming fit into this category, like Monopoly or Risk. These games have no actual endpoint, which means they can last long past the time while the kids are still interested. Also, since the kids are not as good at strategizing, they are less able to close the deal and beat you. which means they usually lose or they just don't stand a chance, so it's not fun. So leave games like this, which can go on and on, for older kids, or, try other games. Early errors. Some games let you make an early decision that will cripple you for the whole rest of the games. If you set up wrong in Terra Mystica, before the game even starts, you can be so far behind that you will never catch up. It's possible to lose Marvel champions in the very first turn. It's not even amazingly likely. It's a known fact about Marvel champions. If you have a game that has this early play feature, it could poison the well with kids who don't know what to do in the early game, and they may not have the patience or learning capacity to figure it out for their second game. So avoid this. Pick games that are forgiving in the early game. Complex iconography. Look at these games. There's a million different icons. Okay, so if the kids get a card in Seven Wonders and they don't know what the icon means, they're gonna have to ask a grown-up. And that means you will know what they have in their hand, which of course you can play trying to not use that knowledge. But the fact is that, and you're explaining it loud so everyone hears it, so it causes an issue. More likely they won't ask you what it is, or they might think it's something other than it is in Terraforming Mars. I think that icon means this, and get it wrong. And then instead of playing the game having fun, they're worried about if they're playing it right. And then they find out they played it wrong, and they feel guilty, and they're like, games are too hard. I'm going to go back to watching TV. So you want to find games that avoid these problems. And would be fun, you can get your kids to think you're cool way longer than you have any right to.